You spent countless hours in the garage with your dad. Now investing in that old car and working on it with your son reminds you of him. And his legacy lives on. Fund your passion with a low-interest home equity line of credit from Bank of Blue Valley.
Oh, did I scare you, Ezzy?
Oh, for a second, I thought I wasn't going to see you, Scott.
Oh, yeah. Well, Ezzy, how are you doing? And as the audience may or may not know, you have a Christmas tree still up at your place because you are festive.
Scott, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Let's move on.
Okay.
All right. We have some great sponsors. Did I mention we have some great sponsors? We have some great sponsors. Great sponsors.
Bank of Blue Valley and Burns McDonnell, which are both growing very rapidly. I know Bank of Blue Valley, if you go to their careers page, they have multiple positions open. And unless you're buried under a rock, you probably know that Burns McDonnell are hiring. They're one of Kansas City's largest employers, best places to work around the country, and hiring well over 3,000 positions. And we're really excited to have someone from their team on board. But with that being said, how are you beating the heat right now? And how is our audience beating the heat, and where are they? Because if they type in the chat on where they are, there's a good chance we're going to read it.
You know, Scott, I hate to be that guy. You might make me be that guy, though. Thus far, I've been beating the heat in Miami with the ocean breeze. It works wonders. My skin looks great. I don't know if you could tell. Fingernails, great, skin exfoliated, all the things. That's been my solution, Scott. How about you?
You're a really good traveler. Do you have any other major travel plans? And again, we want the audience to chime in on how they're beating the heat. But do you have any travel plans before we get to this amazing music that we're going to play?
You know, I'm ending out some travel. Ending out some travel is in Detroit and Las Vegas and Atlanta and a few other places. Who knows? But basically, I've just been running from the heat. So
there you go. Well, that's really smart. And you know, I can't think you can't do a better job of where you're going to beat the heat. But when we start hearing that music, we're going to start making some introductions to our panel. Are you ready, Ezzy?
Whoa. I've got to see where everyone's at. Where's everyone at?
Coming up first, we have Kevin. Number 2, we have Jeremy. And number 3, Peter Bose. So you guys can tell how high tech we are in getting this done. You know, we can play music, we can kind of do it all. But Kevin, without any further ado, who are you? What do you do? And how'd you get to Kansas City?
Yeah, great question. Appreciate you having me on. Good to meet everybody. And so Kansas City, how did I get to Kansas City? Really funny story. My parents moved here during the spring days. And I was here, moved here in 8th grade. And then I moved away from my first career and came back for my second, third, and fourth careers. So that's how I got to Kansas City. I work at Managed Energy Systems here in Kansas City. And I mean, that's really about it about me. I think the other funny thing is people look at my last name, and every time Ray and I talk, you know, Ray Kowalik, he's like, oh my God, Kevin, every time I turn around, people are asking me, how are you related to Kevin? Right. So it's just funny world.
Well, I mean, how do you answer that question? And then you got to go back because you said there are a couple different stops in between. We'd like you to talk about each of those stops because it kind of segues into what you do today. So what do you say when someone confuses you with one of the biggest named CEOs in Kansas City?
like I said, you guys couldn't hear my sarcasm in that, could you? Of them asking about me. Yeah, it's funny. Every time I turn around, every time Ray was moving up the corporate ladder at Burns and Mac, he'd be in the paper and people would be like, "Hey, do you know this Ray Kowalik?" And Ray and I have met. I'm a tennis guy. He was kind of a tennis guy. We met a handful of years ago at a charity event, and I'm sure that we are related somehow, somewhere back in the motherland. And but we never really sat down and figured it out. It's always good to have a name like that, and a big time name actually in the city to kind of relate that to. It's a good icebreaker.
Where I came stops along the way.
Yeah. Where did I come from? Really funny story. Like I said, I have a handful of different careers. My first career, I was a Division I college tennis coach. So I coached at Kansas, Baylor, Wichita State, in Oregon. And I did that for the first 11 years of my career, chased the dream, moved all the way up. I was a head coach at Wichita State in Oregon. Had a lot of fun along the way. Some accolades that we had. We were 3 in the country, Big 12 champions, quarterfinalists at the NCAA tournament, coached a lot of great players that were All-Americans and went on to the Pro Tour. So I had a lot of fun with that. And then the second 11 years, I'm going to start dating myself. I'm here in town. I was running a country club called Homestead Country Club in Prairie Village. So I did that for the next 11 years of my life, and then decided to leverage my contacts in that country club world. And I jumped into the business world at the beginning of 2017, and been in the business world since then.
So Ezzy, I'm going to transition it over to you because I got a couple more questions for Kevin, but what's percolating in your mind?
I think that's a really interesting background, and it goes to show some of our listeners that you don't have to, stay in one career path. What's valuable are the skills in the person, and you can make jumps from, sports and the sporting world to very different industries. So I'm just excited for the inspirational aspects of that, because there's the saying your network is your net worth, and I think that goes to show it, especially as you pivot.
Exactly. So 2 questions. One is, has compensation dramatically increased in the coaching world as of like the last 2 years, 5 years, decade? And then secondly, what does your organization do, and how do you help your clients?
Yeah, great questions. Appreciate that. So in the coaching world, yes, over the course of the last couple of decades, things have increased dramatically. And even when I left a handful, actually, was it 2 decades ago, a decade and a half, something like that, ago, it was exponentially increasing on the tennis side. Obviously, we know on the basketball and football side and those big time sports, they're the highest paid, sometimes the highest paid person in a state, if you look at that. But in terms of the smaller sports or the Olympic sports, for sure they've been increasing, and there's guys making a lot of money out there that are in the smaller sports. So I don't really want to comment on actual numbers. I don't really have those. But
no, not on that. I'm just saying, like, literally, I just saw someone sell their home that was in your industry, and I was just unaware of how highly compensated, because you typically think of basketball and football or a big name sport like a Tennessee women's basketball. Like, you expect certain things to be paid very, very well, but I think a lot of society, and someone on the panel as well, in terms of, people in sports, you're not really aware of how much they're compensated. I just thought it was unique that it's changed. But secondly, how does your organization help your clients? What do you look for in terms of helping people?
Yeah, great question. Appreciate that. So managed energy systems here in Overland Park. I'll give you the short story. You know how we always lose money in our couch cushions? And then you're like, oh, yeah, that was nice to find. That's what we do. We find money in organizations' couch cushions that they didn't know that they had lost. And we do that with the niche is on the utility side. So we go out there and we look at the utilities, and then we find that money that they didn't know and move from there.
So does that make you popular with municipalities, or do they already have such low negotiated rates for utilities that it's a non-issue for them?
Yeah, we're not looking at the municipalities. We're really looking at whether it might be food processors, manufacturers, people that use a lot of energy. That's who we go after. We do small mom and pop shops all the way up to the Fortune 500 companies. And so we're looking to help them save money. There's no CapEx outlay for them, and we're a shared savings company, so it's really, really easy. We do all the work up front, and we're going to increase their bottom line without any extra additional funds that they have to give us. All we do is we put the energy into it, we find the money, we split it with them, and everybody's happy. So municipalities, not so much, but really the larger organizations that are using that energy, whether it's gas, water, wastewater, electricity. And I'll give you an example of what I'm kind of talking about. So not my story, just so you guys know, it's one of my sales guy stories, but he's hanging out at one of our clients and they're giving him a plant tour. And he's kind of looking around and, just checking things out as they're describing it. And he says, hey, I see some water here. What's happening with this water? And the owner of the company says, that water goes to a septic tank. It doesn't go to the sewer, it goes to a septic tank. So we did some research, come to find out that for 15 years, ever since they had been in that building, the utility had been charging them for wastewater when it is actually going to the septic. So we brought the utility out and they go, oh yeah, actually, that's exactly what's happening. Our bad, our fault. We should have been charging you. So we were able to get them a very, very large refund, a 15-year refund. We changed that moving forward. But that just goes to show you that it's really nobody's fault. It's just people don't know what's happening. Utilities didn't know what was happening. The company didn't really know what was happening. And so we come in there and we find these niche items that nobody really knows about that's in our wheelhouse. And we try to help people save money.
So one quick question for Jeremy. Did your partner that runs your organization, was he either a waiter at Olive Garden, B, a grave digger, or C, a soccer referee?
Who's that question to?
That's to you, Kevin.
The owner of the company, soccer referee. Would you say busboy? And what was
grave digger or Olive Garden?
Yep, I already know the answer, and that's grave digger. And the winner is?
Well, Scott, you can't leave us in suspense there.
Yeah. Is Scott frozen?
Yeah. Jeremy, who are you? What do you do? And how'd you get to Kansas City?
Wait, whoa, Scott, you got to give us the answer, Chief.
It really paused when I was trying to give the answer.
Scott, we're all on bated breath here. We must know this.
Claude was a grave digger.
Yes.
So I apologize. I'm at a different spot. I was actually with my partners with a potential client, and they're letting me use their office, but they're used to me. And so when I said, hey, after our presentation, can I use one of the conference rooms for a podcast? And they said, yes. Is it the Drinks with Leaders? So people know the show. So Jeremy, who are you? What do you do? And how'd you get to Kansas City?
Thanks for having me on. So Jeremy Terman, I've actually been born and raised here. So grew up at 117th and State Line. And actually, fun fact, I live in the same zip code today that I grew up in. So I lived in Kansas City, 25 years, 4 years in Columbia when I was in college, and then a year out in California. But how I got here. So I've just been attracted to startups kind of from the get. So when I was at Mizzou, I was an early sales rep at a company called Pocket Points, which we could go for many hours on that. We rewarded students for staying off of their cell phones. So we geofenced classrooms, we had students earning points for staying off their cell phones in class. So we launched this all across the country. This was back in 2016, 2017. And that's what moved me out to California. And that was like my first taste of the startup world. We blew up. We had 1.5 million users in 60 college towns. And then we blew up. We couldn't fundraise capital and the founders didn't know what to do. So I was very fortunate that I had moved back to Kansas City towards the very end of that and was an early employee at DoorDash. So if you order DoorDash in Kansas City, Wichita, Columbus, Dayton, about 20 different cities, I went door to door signing up all the restaurants. So I was the market launcher. And then I spent 2 years negotiating and signing some of the largest contracts with Whataburger, Jersey Mike's, Jack in the Box. So been in restaurant tech for about 8 years. And then in between that Pocket Points to DoorDash time, I created a consulting company that helped businesses, go to market, which then turned into a marketing agency, Social Apex, which is one of the best local marketing agencies here in town. And that's how we actually founded the Kansas City Pioneers, because Lorenzo Brown, a senior at Blue Valley North, came to Social Apex to have them help build a video to help him build and brand, an esports organization. And Social Apex said, hey, we're going to do it with you. And so then, fast forward 3 years later, and owner and co-founder of one of the fastest growing esport organizations in the country, living here in Kansas City.
So you were talking pre-show about the amount of people that watched a recent event that you did as compared to the Royals. So kind of talk, because when we were talking, because we knew each other pre-Pioneers, but what blew me away was the reach you have. So, Drinks with Leaders has the best reach on LinkedIn, which, I'm not saying is a lot because it's Kansas City, but, kind of educate people that, because I was a total novice on the e-gaming world. What is your local reach? But what is the reach of normal players that play for your professional sports team?
Yeah, really great question. So at the Pioneers as a whole, think of us as an umbrella company. So if you took, all the different sports teams in Kansas City and had them play for one team, even though they were in different sports, that's what we do for esports. So we have Rocket League, a Halo team, a Gears of War team, a Splitgate team, and all of these teams compete and play underneath the Pioneer umbrella. So on a monthly basis, we're reaching 50 million people. And we have teams we have the #1 Rocket League team in Australia.
Say that again. Say that again. On a monthly basis, you are reaching
50 million people across all of our channels.
Yeah, no. I just want you to keep doing it. I think people just in the business world, and this is a business show, it's just something people have to pay attention to.
Well, I mean, that's why you've seen first movers, and I'm going to shout out our sponsors here in Kansas City, Price Chopper, Jack Stack, Guy Snacks. They've realized that the next generation of consumers is consuming content on iPads, on Twitch, on iPhones, and that, that's where we are. I don't watch TV. So brands that are trying to target me as, an up and coming, family household, you're not going to catch me watching TV. I'm on Twitch, I'm on YouTube, I'm on all the socials. And, that's what we've done as a pioneer, at the Pioneers. Some of our tweets and social posts get more views than what the Royals or Sporting puts out. And what you just said, Scott, in one of the recent Rocket League matches that we had that was streamed online on Twitch, we had over 100,000 people watching that live. And, unfortunately, Bally Sports and what's happened with the Royals, there's an average of about 40,000 people that watch each Royals game. So we're pulling in 2.5 times the amount of people to watch just 3 cars kick a ball into a goal. And it's just, look, Mizzou.
I really hope Joe Goldberg's not watching right now. He's a friend of the show. He really is not going to like this.
No, Joel loves it. So I was Mason's camp counselor. So I've known him for a long time.
You were his son's camp counselor?
Yeah. So again, awesome. Look, a Kansas City native through and through, it's just the community's so small. But I think even talking with Joel about this, you can get a full-time job being a broadcaster for esports. All of those traditional roles that we see in the traditional sports space, you can do that in esports. And that's why you start to see these STEM and STEAM programs and universities building these arenas and investing in full ride scholarships, because it's a brand. The gaming industry is $178 billion. So the gaming industry is massive. It's bigger than traditional sports. So the world is finally catching on, and we're hopeful in more Kansas City brands that they will believe in what we're building at the Pioneers and join us in our vision.
Ezzy, what are your thoughts?
My first thought was that he did look a little familiar. I'm pretty sure at some point or another in the Wings Cafe days, we crossed paths.
Oh my God, Ezzy, what's up? Yeah, we were signing you on DoorDash, man. We didn't get that contract signed.
Oh my God, you remember
Wings Cafe? Is this Wings Cafe in Westport?
Yeah, right up. Yeah, we sat down middle table. Mm-hmm.
That's a good chicken sandwich, though.
Appreciate it. So that was my first thought, Scott. That's what I was thinking here.
Oh, okay, because now whenever you bring up Wings Cafe, my favorite story of Ezzy is I've never seen him mad. And someone gave a comment of how they broiled chicken wings, and Ezzy about wanted to get off his seat and beat him up. He was like, "You broiled him? Like, what are you doing?" And he was so mad. But Ezzy, are you a gamer? I'm just trying to get you. You're very in tune with all generations, even though you're a millennial like myself. I mean, just what are your thoughts in general on e-gaming?
Yeah, I think that there was a report that global spending on advertising is going up is scheduled to go up 8.4% this upcoming year through traditional and digital. And I think that the landscape's just going to keep getting more and more competitive as more and more big corporations dive into competing for that limited eye space and on iPads and phones and traditional social media channels. So I think that for companies who want a bigger bang for their buck, they've got to find new ways to do that, whether it's TikTok, which Aaron, who is behind the scenes today, always preaches with Lillian James Creative, or whether it's metaverse, whether it's Twitch and live streaming, whether it's sponsoring top tier players, and as they're streaming, they're talking about your product. They have very loyal followings, more so than some of the big TV shows out here. So I think that is something that people need to really seriously start researching or coming to companies who get it.
Well, think about talent. Like, you're hiring people. Like, what are when you are building culture as a company, like, what are your core values that you think drive people? Like, happy hour on Fridays at 5:00 to have a free beer. Like, that doesn't motivate the next generation of consumers. Like, you start to see, one of our investors is at a big Fortune company, and they have a gaming division for their employees. They have a gaming Discord channel for their employees to talk. So as you think about, massive brands, we'll talk specifically here in Kansas City, as you're looking to recruit talent, which talent's one of the hardest things right now. People are trying to find, good labor. It's like, why should someone come to you? So you start playing into like what people care about, and that gaming is an identity or a part of the identity of your company. You're going to start to see a lot of companies use and partner with esport organizations as a acquisition tool for employees. So if you're definitely looking to find that next generation of consumer that wants to care about working at your company, care about them and their interests. So it'll be interesting to see that come in the years to come.
Last quick question, then we get segued to Peter. Are you participating in corporate challenge? Like, is e-gaming now part of corporate challenge that all the big companies play in?
So I know, in Kansas City, we have the Esports Coalition, and I think there is some cup that Honeywell and a couple other companies are engaging with, but I definitely think we should do more. And that there are many of the large businesses in Kansas City that, we can build those types of events with the pioneers together with. So
yeah, that's a message to whoever runs corporate challenge, that a Gen Z, Jeremy, that runs the professional sports team doesn't even know what it is a bad sign for corporate challenge, because that's to your point.
Scott. What a screen lock. Yeah.
Joseph. Okay. So while we wait for Scott to come back, is it okay? People viewing.
No, Peter. I was segueing in. Who are you? What do you do? And how'd you get to Kansas City?
There you go.
This lag is fantastic.
I know, right? Wait. So before you answer that, I just want to check in with the audience. So we have a couple secrets here in our behind the scenes, and we just want to know if anyone wants to hear any of the secrets. So as we go through this next introduction, if you want to hear the secrets, just pop on, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, pop in the chat. We have people watching the chat, and if we get a thumbs up, we'll tell you some of the secrets. There's secrets in utilities, there's secrets in gaming. There's a couple things that you might want to know about. So, but we need to know that you care. We don't just go around giving out secrets all willy nilly. So with that being said, let's keep it going.
Scott, I'll have to admit, I have a question for Jeremy before we move forward. Can I go ahead and ask?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm really eager to know what's the most popular game right now. Like, I remember Fortnite having its moment. I don't know if that's still popular or not, but like, what's the it game these days?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that it's tough to answer that because there's like 30 top tier esports. I mean, it would depend on like the city, geography. I mean, it would depend on the country too. Like you go over to Asia, you know, the superstars of those countries are the League of Legends players. Like if you're a League of Legends player, you're making 1 to 2 million a year in your salary. And they sold and they had more people watching the League of Legends final in China than the Super Bowl. So it's like, it depends what country you're asking. I mean, I believe Rocket League is, and again, that's why I think it's a personal opinion. I mean, you can look at viewership, Valorant, League of Legends, Dota. Like those are some, like they've been around forever. Fortnite, like Fortnite's kind of like, it's very tough to do like competition of that, but Rocket League is 3 cars kicking a ball. Like everyone can understand that. If you don't know anything about esports, you're like, this is just like soccer. And I think it's the easiest to play, but it's very difficult still. But yeah, I would say Rocket League, in my opinion, is one of the biggest esports.
Well, Ezzy, if Aaron pulls up a comment because I'm freezing, you're reading it. There you go. David, learning about KC Pioneers has been awesome. Never heard of them, but I have a 15-year-old son has. So now, as always, we have a loyal viewer as well that tuned in early. But Joel, thanks for having me. God, Joel's amazing. In general, though, I mean, it's mind-blowing when people first hear about it. So Peter's same reaction and David's reaction in the audience, I think, is similar to everyone else. So Peter, who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City?
So I'll echo the other 2 guests, and I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you today. My name is Peter Bose. I am our T&D renewables market leader for Burns McDonnell. And in that capacity, I focus on interconnecting and injecting renewable energy, whether it be wind, solar, battery storage onto the grid through switch yards, substations, and transmission lines. So my background is a master's in structural engineering from K-State, where I, grown up in KC, I knew I was going to work for either Black & Veatch or Burns McDonnell. Interviewed at Burns & Mac and was offered a position, and they offered me a role in a division called T&D. And at the time, I had no idea what that was. One of your previous guests was actually my recruiter, and she says, "Yeah, hey, how about you go work in T&D?" And I'm like, "Yeah, cool. What's that?" And I look around, and I'm like, "Yeah, you're going to be building substations." And I said, "Okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds nice." And I kind of quickly Google what a substation is, and like the rest is history. And I kind of backed into a career in the energy sector, which has been absolutely the light of my career. It has been excellent. It is a ever moving, ever changing. Kevin talked about it a little bit earlier, but just everything that's going on with the energy sector right now is fascinating. In the past 10 years, there's been more monumental change than ever before. And it's just been a real fun time to be a part of it. And so in that sense, I'm actually also like Jeremy, as I grew up in KC, born and raised. I lived in Overland Park, 127th and Schweitzer, thereabouts. And one of my colleagues, I told him, I said, "Hey, where are you from?" He says, and I said, "Well, I'm from Overland Park." And he goes, "I didn't know people were from there. I thought people just moved there," which I thought was pretty funny because like when I lived there, yeah. So, I mean, Jeremy gets it. I remember like growing up and there was nothing south of 127th. So it's kind of a funny thing. And I remember riding bikes with friends when that was under construction, come full circle. But so anyways, we just relocated back, my wife and I and my daughter, who you might hear in the background. The heat waves, talking about the energy sector, heat waves closed our daycare for the day. So she's home. But we moved from Chicago this past October. So we'd spent the past 6.5 years up there working and building up our Chicago presence in the T&D sector, and had a wonderful experience. It's a great town. Have no regrets whatsoever, but ultimately wanted to get close to family and friends, and we have several of our friends have the kids around the same age, and so it was time to get back home to our roots. And so we moved back, and we're now living in West Plaza and loving it down there. It's a little bit different living down there as a dad than it was as a single youth. I think Ezzy's laughing at me right now, but I'm doing a lot different things than I was than going to see Jim at Kelly's on a Thursday. But anyways, it's been fun rediscovering KC. KC has a lot to offer, and it's been just an absolute blast. There's things that I never opened my eyes to before, parts of town that I didn't understand, didn't go visit, didn't go explore, food scenes I hadn't done. So we've just been really enjoying it for the past, it's almost 10 months now, which is crazy. We're almost coming up on a full year.
So Peter, I remember one time you were describing solar, and you broke it down for me in terms of like innings, not to use a little Joe Goldberg baseball reference here, but you were saying, solar was really...
Izzy, take it away.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if I remember this analogy.
Just finish his sentence right there.
I have no idea where he was going with that one. I was like, solar is? I was listening myself. But here is an energy secret, since we did get some audience participation. We appreciate you all letting us know that you're here. You actually have different rates based upon whether the utility companies think that you use primarily gas appliances or electric appliances. So if you convert a formerly gas appliance home to mostly electric, then you should probably let your electric or utility provider know, because that affects your rates, and sometimes quite significantly. So how'd I do? Was that okay? Utility fact? Was that all right?
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, it's interesting, all the stuff that's going on. I think this will play into Kevin's hand quite a bit, but there's states in cities, Denver, New York State, New York City come into mind, where they're starting to push towards electric only appliances, electric hot water heater, electric stove, electric range, whatever the case may be, in using those electric appliances to reduce on the distribution of natural gas as part of like a clean movement, which is, and it's all new construction, right? I think New York came out with an all electric HVAC unit, which is pretty interesting too, but or furnace. But it's just interesting how it all is changing, and on our expected reliability is still way high, and you're reinventing, quite frankly, the most complicated piece of equipment ever built in the electric grid simultaneously, while maintaining high reliability and clean power. So it's pretty cool opportunity.
Cool. So Scott, you had another cliffhanger for us?
Yeah, sorry, it's getting frozen. I just was for the audience. You referenced solar being in the.
Of course.
The solar is the problem.
So I don't know where Scott was going with that, but I'll use my own analogy that I may or may not have showed for Scott in the past. But the way that I equate my job is not unlike a restaurant, where you have your cooks in the kitchen, you have your consumers at the table, and I'm ultimately responsible for delivering electrons to the grid, and the cooks in the kitchen are going to be generating it, whether it be legacy fossil plant, a hydropower facility, a wind turbine, a battery storage facility, a solar plant. And my job is really as the waiter to understand what the consumer wants and deliver that through any means necessary. And in my case, in the more physical sense, it's the electric infrastructure that goes into delivering that power, which serves a crucial role in the actual execution of a cleaner, renewable grid.
Gotcha. Love it. And I think that clean, renewable grid is actually a perfect segue for our Burns and Mac question of the day. So Scott, would you mind queuing that up, or Aaron? I'm not actually sure who cues it.
Hi, my name's Megan Johnson. I'm a technical recruiter for Burns & Mac, looking for the best and brightest talent nationwide. My question of the day is, what's your one superpower that makes you stand out in front of others?
Kevin?
Excellent. Thank you so much. So appreciate that question from Megan. I would say that my superpower is my energy that I bring on a daily basis. So obviously it's tough to tell what kind of high energy person I am over this podcast. But I would say that would be the biggest thing. It's definitely not my muscles, I can tell you that.
All right, Jeremy, what about yourself?
Well, Kevin stole mine. I for sure have energy, but I'll lead with one of my mantras. So I coach high school baseball, and the first thing I tell the team every year, which back-to-back years, second in districts at University Academy, is 1% better every day. And it's purely a mindset that every single day you are incrementally getting better and that you're always challenging yourself to grow and improve. And so I think, sports has always been something that I love growing up, and now being able to coach and, help give back. It's like truly looking at no one will work harder than me every day. And then no one's going to have that mindset that even when you're down, you're still working to get better. And that, that mindset helps you persevere and really get to, unknown levels.
Peter?
Yeah, I think that mine's not much undifferent than Kevin and Jeremy's, but really just around being yourself, right? The things that you find passion in, and being able to pivot your career and pivot your goals and what you want to accomplish that day, that month, that year to what you want to go and build, and not be bashful about it, right? That can be your interests in whatever, and showing that through. I had a great internship by spending most of my interview talking about the Chiefs and being able to work at Arrowhead one summer, right? Like that, those are things that sometimes you can fall forward into some great opportunities by just showing your passion, whatever that may be, and aligning to it. And I've never been bashful about that.
Got it. So did we cover everyone with the question of the day? Okay. So as a follow-up question for that, we're about halfway through 2022. And I think that a lot of people are trying to level set for what their goals should be for the rest of the year. So I'd love to hear you all's goals for the second half of the year, and what you would deem to be on track, and what you'd like to accomplish.
Kevin?
Perfect. Appreciate that. So we all have a bunch of different goals. I have a bunch of different goals, but one of the goals that we're really, really trying to focus on, especially after what's happened in the last couple of years where we are not able to see people, but my goal, and still is in 2022, is to meet as many of my personal, professional acquaintance contacts that I have via LinkedIn, through friendships, whatever it is, and just meet with them for coffee, meet with them for lunch, meet with them happy hour, whatever it is. And I felt like I get caught up, even before COVID happened, I get caught up being really, really busy and just saying hi to people because it was a convenience via text, or I saw them at the grocery store or whatever, but I never really made time. And so my goal was to, again, get out there, and I just want to, what have you been up to for the last year, couple of years, months, whatever it's been since we got in contact, and just tell me more about you. And so that's been one of my goals, and really try to hit that hard in May, and did a really good job with that. And now I'm still trying to continue on that. So I'd say I'm fairly on track. I don't have the network that Scott has, but I have a decent network in Kansas City. So it takes a while to go through everybody.
Jeremy?
Yeah, Kevin, I love the goal of meeting people back in person again. Like, it's so refreshing to go get coffees. It's like so foreign again to be like, do you want to meet? You're like, yeah, no Zoom, please. Like, let's meet in person. So I have goals across the various ventures. So at Lunchbox, we're a restaurant technology company. The goal is to continue to solidify our footprint. We're an early stage company helping brands build mobile apps, loyalty, and online ordering all in one. So back to, want to sign a few marquee national brands by end of the year. On the Pioneer side, we're in the middle of a fundraising round. So we're about halfway through our seed round. So we have $1 million left in capital. So that short-term goal by the end of hopefully June, if not July, is to finish that capital round and get a Pioneers headquarters so we can bring everyone out to see truly what esports and gaming is. So I'd say those are probably the two big priorities in addition to, being back out in the community and just getting more involved and being back in person.
Yeah, I mean, same token, different person, but from on the personal side, it's I think that I travel a lot for work, and COVID made me realize the need to spend quality time for family. There's a great excerpt in Wall Street Journal over the weekend about time and time management, what that meant, and it was really a story about what does time mean to you and how do you spend it, and it's recommitting that time to things that I care most about, and the thing that I don't want to do is more or less waste another 2 years of my life, because I know that's a large percentage that's already been sucked away on opportunities to travel and experience things with my family and friends. Professionally, big news out of the Biden administration was to put a hiatus on the anti-dumping petition for solar modules and being able to come in. So that will accelerate our business quite a bit. So I know that a lot of this LinkedIn series has to do with recruitment, and Megan talked about it a little bit just then, is getting really good people and expanding our team and being able to match the growth that we're going to see in the space and accelerate our position in the market and continue to grow.
I love it. We have plugged the recruiting for Burns & Mac, which is really important for us because there are so many open positions that are hiring. Kevin, one thing that I'd like to ask you and then go around the horn again is, what's a leadership trait that you learned from one of the great leaders that you've worked with, and how do you try to incorporate that in your day-to-day work?
Yeah, great question. So we have a handful of different core values that we focus on week to week here, and it's one of the ones that I really like, that I try to focus on too, is take chances. I think as a leader, sometimes you get stuck in wanting to protect and circle the wagons, but I think a great leader is one that takes chances on whatever that is, whatever that means. It could be people, personnel, technology, pivoting in what you're trying to do with your business, whatever it is. But I think that's what a true leader would do, is they see what's happening, and they're willing to take chances and moving forward. So I like to do that personally. Not that I'm out there, taking huge risks, but I like to take risks and place little bets along the way and see what happens. And if some of them pay off exponentially and other ones don't, then eventually I'm always up.
All right, turn it over to me.
Over to you.
Yes.
Baton is in your court.
Sorry if I'm freezing.
No, it's all good. So, I mean, it's great leaders that it's stealing quotes from. I mean, I like Tony Zhu and DoorDash was like one of the best experiences. Like Tony's like one of the most phenomenal leaders. And I think it's embracing just core values at all the different companies. And I kind of like that 1% better. That's a DoorDash value. I'd say like assume good intentions has always been something that has helped in every good business line. Like people make mistakes. People like forget to do stuff. Like if you always assume good intentions, you can move forward past that. In the and, not the or. I think like, especially if you've only worked in the startup world, like you don't have the option to do and or. It's like you have to do both of them. So I think it's like truly looking up to people, especially in the entrepreneur space, that like they're doing what you believe not to be possible. And I think that really helps open your mind of like, don't set a limit or gate to like what can be accomplished.
Yeah. And then Peter, before you answer it, Ezzy will think of the next question to go around the horn. But Peter, what are some lessons in leadership that you've learned from great leaders that you've worked with?
Yeah, I think that mine, my favorite one right now is don't be a gatekeeper, right? And when you find something and you're able to build something, find that next person up to fill that void. There was a great quote that I just someone that I respect mightily. They read the book Titan, which was about John D. Rockefeller and about Standard Oil, and it was about something that started early, and his mentor had given him the direction of, hey, your goal is to find your replacement, kick your heels up, and then think about how to make money for the Standard, which I really liked the philosophy. I like the story mostly because they called it the standard, which I thought was hilarious. But equally as important, it was finding those people that can build the team around, promoting them, and have that selfless leadership to be able to get these people to assume your role eventually, and having career paths and focusing on the team's career path and motivating them through what they're going to be, not who they are today, but what they're going to be. So it's definitely a heavy delegation role, and being able to let go of things. And I know as an engineer, that's definitely hard to do.
Izzy, what kind of question you got cooking?
Yeah, I think that sometimes on panels we just talk about the good, but there's a lot of people whose reactions to the bad and how they navigate that will determine their course and their futures. And so I'd like to hear a situation that you all encountered where you had to make a decision that helped navigate you out of a hard or tricky path or sticky situation. So and we've been picking on Kevin all these times. So let's start with Peter this time around.
I mean, I don't have to look too far past my day to day. So I from a time management perspective, as he is that I woke up this morning and my phone had set a reminder to check in for a flight to take me to Boston, the lone direct flight I could get out to make a meeting. And I didn't have organized daycare or travel for my daughter to get to daycare tomorrow to make that flight, as my wife is traveling for work as well. And so managing that and pulling in favors, and then ultimately getting to work and being behind on some things because I didn't do them last night, poor time management, and paying the consequences today, ultimately to have the daycare lose power today, and then having to call in yet another favor as a friend's daughter to watch my daughter. So again, it's we talk about network and people that you trust and people that you can lean on, and I liked Jeremy's statement about treating others how you want to be treated, or something along those lines. Sorry, I'm butchering what you said, Jeremy, but ultimately trusting that people are going to do the right thing, and vice versa, right? They trust that you're going to do the right thing, and it will all come full circle, and good karma will go your way. And fortunately, in that sense, sticky situation that I've been able to lean on and pull some favors to be able to sort it out, and luckily my daughter will have care for the next 48 hours.
You can always call us, Peter.
Oh man, Ezzy, what a guy! Thank you.
Cool. All right, we'll go with Jeremy.
Yeah, so I think I'm trying to think of an exact example. I think when times really get tough in any organization, it truly goes back to the people that you work with and the trust that you have and the vision that the company is against. I mean, there's been multiple times in the pioneers when we're trying to build and scale our organization where we're like, are we going to make it? Are we going to be able to get more investors on board? Are we going to be able to find more brands, to sponsor us, to truly believe in the vision? And I think it's in all those difficult times, it goes back to what's our vision? What's our goal? What are we trying to create? What is the change that we're going to create? And if if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be the team. So I think any company, non-for-profit, for-profit, it's you always rally behind what the vision is. And when you're in a super difficult time, it's you have to make sacrifices, or you have to make certain decisions as a business, preserve cash flow, or find a lot of ways to get creative to make it happen. And I think it's just digging deep with the group. And I think out of all the organizations that I've been a part of, really seen it at the pioneers just being almost bootstrapped to make this thing where it is today.
Kevin?
And yeah, appreciate that. So I'm going to echo a little bit what Jeremy's saying, is that it's hard to really think of a lot of different specific bad, negative situations when the blank hit the fan, right? And so I think of more personal stuff of guiding kids through stuff than I do work. But at work, I really hear what Jeremy just talked about. It's about your team, it's about your group. You can lean on each other. When things don't go as planned, because it's never the plan for it to go bad. when things don't go as planned, you can always lean on each other and lean on, again, whether it's the core values or your vision or your mission or, what you're trying to accomplish. And the interesting part about time is even though we're in that bad part of time, whatever is happening at that moment, it's a very, very, very tiny blip in the big scheme of things. So I think pulling myself up and out, everybody pull yourself up and out of it and going, listen, this is maybe 1 hour, 1 day, a week, whatever it is. It's really, in the big scheme of things, not that big of a deal. So, it's like I said, I think I echo what everybody else is saying, but for me, just pulling myself out really helps to look at the big picture. And really the other thing that I like to do is I like to raise my arms up like this, like I'm on a roller coaster, and I just enjoy the ride, and I scream when we're going down, and I breathe when we're going back up.
No, that's a great question, Ezzy. I was going to follow up with like, what's a mistake you're making, but that's kind of on the same vein. I think maybe if you could redo the start of 2022 over again, what would you have been more intentional about, and what do you want to change towards the second half of the year? So, Kevin, what's something that you feel you could have done a better job of starting the year out on?
Boy, that's a tough one. I mean, I'd have to noodle on that for a handful of minutes. I don't really look back like that often and really try to think about those things. I just move forward. The present is the present, as we've all heard. And yeah, there are some things I could have done better. I just don't really dwell on them that much. So I apologize. I can't really think about a good or a specific answer around that. So I will hand the baton off.
Jeremy, what do you wish you could have done better that you wanted to do at the start of the year?
Yeah, I mean, just probably any moment of like complacency and just like working harder, right? Like I think like the biggest thing you always think back of, what if you made one more cold call? What if you did one more email? What if you met one more person for coffee? Like what could have led from that? So I never really think a lot on the past, to be honest. It's more just execution moving forward. But if I could probably redo the start, I mean, at least from an investor perspective of the Pioneers, I would have been a mobile billboard at the get. So we could have been done with this round and we could have had this call in the Pioneers headquarters. So, I mean, it's just like opportunity cost, right? Like you want to live life at the same standpoint. Like when you're building something, you are your like biggest threat. Like if you don't work hard enough or you don't make that one extra thing, that's the only thing holding you back.
Man, I can't follow up that soundbite, Scott. That was a good one, because I'm kind of with Kevin on this one. Is it's hard to we've had a lot of change happen in our family and at work too in the past 8 months, and it's hard to think of replaying that out and Monday morning quarterbacking the plays, just because a lot of it was just what came at us. We were just dipping, diving, and dodging what life was throwing at us, and it's hard to look back and think to play it any way different, because we were just playing the cards that we were dealt at the time. But what Jeremy sounded pretty good.
That's right. So, Ezzy, I'm curious what your thoughts are of what maybe a situation that you would have done differently, or maybe something that you would want to do differently to start out the year.
Yeah, I think I would have gotten coaches sooner. I think that coaches, mentors, all of those things in that kind of box are hugely impactful. And even if it's not a coach, just a personal board of directors, I think, people who think different, who think critical, who are smart, who maybe weather some storms to give you different perspectives, I think that there's a solution for everything. It's just whether you find it or not. And that's kind of my realization. And I think the other thing is, probably gone out and networked a little bit more. And I think all of you have talked about, the importance of kind of networking, one more coffee, one more, connection. So I'd love to hear just a super quick tip. And I'm aware we have, just in case everyone doesn't know, we have about 5 minutes left. And so with that last 5 minutes, it would be great to hear everyone's, tip for networking. So, what's one thing, two things that someone who's looking to get better at networking can implement so that they can be as well connected as everyone up here?
I'd be happy to lead this one off, as if you want to.
Oh, you got it, big fella.
Give Kevin a break, but this is a hot nugget for me, because a lot of times people are so tepid about reaching out to other folks, especially at conferences, right? But there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people that are going to conferences and these events to do exactly what you're there to do, is network. You don't need to go and sit in a session and learn about something that you could probably teach the session on. You should be out there having 15 coffees. My weird thing that I do is I might buy 15 coffees in a day, but I might drink one of them, because no one in the right mind is going to have 15 coffees, but social etiquette tells me that I need to buy a coffee too. So that is something that I'll absolutely do. And it was said before, but meeting in person and taking the opportunity to meet in person is so critical. It goes so much farther in finding those nuances and being able to have frank or off the cuff conversations that aren't interrupted by lag times in the internet or whatnot. Right. So that's for you there, Scotty. But I think that's what it is it's putting yourself out there and knowing that other people want to network with you as well. And if you're genuine about it, then there's going to be a relationship that forms.
That's great.
Yeah, I actually like going to the middle. It's good. I get to kind of see both different perspectives. I love LinkedIn. I hope one of these days LinkedIn sends me the LinkedIn creator, because I'm getting up there. Kevin, like you said, I think Scott and Emerson Hodis are my two guys that I look at to try to be Aaron, as well as obviously LinkedIn influencers. But it's honestly the custom outreach. I don't just send a request and say, hey, let's chat. It's like I send a request and I look through someone's profile of like, why do you want to give me time, and vice versa? What do I want to talk about? So I'm always very custom in my outreach, not just hey, let's just connect. Besides Rich Kleinman, he's the general partner at the Boardroom, which is a VC group. He runs Kevin Durant. He has 15 LinkedIn messages from me and hasn't responded yet. But that's my second point, which is consistency, which is if you connect with someone, people are busy. Don't just assume one message is going to do the trick. So Rich will get back to me one of these days.
No big deal. But if you're watching, and you know him,
Kevin?
All good stuff. I love it. A little trash talk on here. The one thing, I actually just gave a continuing education course. We teach them here in our, people volunteer to teach different things in our company. And I taught this last week, and it was about networking and relationships. And the one thing that I like to talk about is a couple of things actually is don't be a taker, but also be a giver. Deposit coins into the relationship bank, be empathetic to the other person, get into them, know them, look into their eyes, and they're the most important thing, and get to know them and develop that relationship, right? That's the biggest thing, instead of looking over shoulders and going, who else can I connect with that's in this coffee shop right now, right? So, get to know them, and then it can kind of grow and you can move from there.
And there is quick corrections at the end of, just like the end of a news article. Aaron Fulk has been rated consistently by the Business Journal as the top online personality in Kansas City, and actually was a pioneer in LinkedIn, getting one of the first LinkedIn Live licenses, which actually sparked the origination of this show with COVID. Aaron was one of the only people that had a LinkedIn Live license, hence why we can't curse or use well-known music, because she is so well-known. Without that further ado, we'll have Ezzy close out the show. But one thing we do want to thank is Bank of Blue Valley and Burns & McDonnell for making this possible, for Aaron Fulk for being the #1 online influencer and LinkedIn. But Ezzy, what do you want everyone to leave with?
I think, in the spirit of networking, follow up with these guys. These guys are all amazing. And if you're not following up with them, then, you're probably at a loss. It's definitely your loss, not theirs. So follow up with them, follow up with Scott, follow up with Aaron, And let's get back to networking.
Well, cool. Well, let's all wave at our cameras like we do on Zoom. Have a good show.